have been made by governing and opposition party? How do we make sense of what's being promised?
Well, it's frankly slightly worrying for those of us who are clear on how far we have come to agree on the importance of stabilizing the economy, both the PNP and the JLP, of the importance of fiscal responsibility, of the folly of promising all kinds of things in elections, of printing money, the folly of over-leveraging, to get even a hint of it as we go forward. And it's just the first step. So they say each party is promising various things, and then are quick to say or to indicate a methodology of paying for it because they know the worry of the country.
Yes.
Right? But I just wish we would have enough confidence in what we have achieved and the importance of what we have achieved, and that Jamaicans understand the importance of what we have achieved, and therefore campaign on that and not get back into the pork belly politics.
Matthew White, I don't know how much you know based on your youth in comparison to all of us on the panel, but based on what Dr. Stokes just said, tell me how all of the promises strike you with what you know about where we have come with our economic management and development over the last 40 years or so.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I am young, so I really don't know much before Portia Simpson Miller, but definitely what the messaging on both sides has been allows young people, I think, to buy in to the idea of growth and progressiveness a lot easier. We've sort of mystified or breaking away from IMF borrowing, and Dr. Nigel Clark has become sort of a mysterious, a heroic figure amongst us, and so we have a lot of faith, I'd say, in government's upcoming. Definitely the polling indicates that young people are slightly more interested in allowing the government to continue on its progress, its path of progress, and is generally very unsure of what the opposition is trying to do. But I'd say we're very hopeful and faithful, as a young said.
Right. Clyde Williams, your thoughts on the worry that Dr. Stokes has? Are you equally worried?
Yeah. No, I'm not worried at all. I don't think the Jamaica Labour Party would have come so far over the last, 9 or so years to give it all up. All of what Portia Simpson Miller and Peter Phillips established a foundation, they continued with it to their credit and benefit. Nigel Clark took it to a point where I really thought we were paying down on the debt a little bit too hard, too fast, too steep. So we couldn't get to do little basic things around the house and so on. So I don't think we have come that far to give it up. When I looked and I studied a little bit more what the JLP spoke about, up to 15%, for instance, it is clear they're saying it is over time. In fact, they say the words long-term vision. Mm-hmm. That's what they say. They didn't even say short or medium term. They say long-term vision is to move the income tax to a certain point, 15%, and so forth and so on. So I'm not worried at all in relation to whether or not the PNP, they haven't been at the bat for a while. So I'm a little bit more concerned about how they are going to meet the promises they have made, rather than concerned about the government, who has in fact been very fiscally responsible over the last 9 years.
Let me come to Dr. McAlpin in a moment. We're just sorting out something on the electronic platform. And I hear Clyde Williams, and I can appreciate that. But isn't it a bit careless at this moment, Dr. Stokes, coming so late in the day, even though they do have a good record of fiscal management? You put something out, you don't give a price tag, you say it's not immediate, but price tag is important. And when you talk about economy, everything needs to line up to mathematical precision.
Yes. I'll give the JLP one thing, they're not careless. So if you just refer to the section that Clyde was speaking about here, they talk about long-term moving from direct taxes to indirect taxes. And the implication, of course, is that if direct taxes come down, indirect taxes either have to go up in terms of the rate, or you have to collect more. It has to be a wider net. And then they speak about reducing the taxes on the asset taxes. So in the language is an out, but the games, the approach to seem attractive, to deliver goodies, it brings back a lot of bad memories as somebody who came up through the 70s and 80s in this country, and I would like to have some faith in what Clyde is saying, that we're not really going back there.
Right. And then the thing as well, as Clyde said, when the JLP came, this is my addition to it, when they came with the 1.5 idea in 2016, perhaps 2 weeks before the election, a lot of us thought it undoable. Not a lot of us, a lot of the economists thought it undoable. But they've been able to do it, to phase it in. On top of that, they've been able to not bring in new taxes, but to expand the tax collection mechanism. And they are projecting about $140 billion, Clyde Williams, over the next 3 years in terms of revenues. They don't have the issue of the PNP saying, we're not going to draw down from the NHT, the 11.4 billion. Right. To that extent, is their job a little bit easier in terms of finding revenue to fund what they're talking about, because they are saying we will continue with taking money from the NHT? Let me hear.
It's a lot of money, $11 billion. Of course, the irony of criticizing the Manley years and the NHT and then taking $11 billion annually is not lost on the country.
Yes.
Right? But having said that, under Nigel Clark, the JLP has been very careful and structured and tactical. All right, I think that is fair to say, and we just hope it continues. Now, they talk about no new taxes, which is a good selling point. But the truth of the matter is, you've had the discussions with the tax administration in Jamaica. They're collecting more money.
Yes.
So the enforcement, the reach, the additional hours, they make it easy for you to pay.
Let's come back to that. Let me just get Dr. McAlpin in, since his electronic platform is now okay. Dr. McAlpin, your thoughts on all of the matters that you think we need to have focused our attentions on now?
Well, it's really a question of, one party making promises based on the potential, while another is doing based on their track record. With the JLP, it's a question of continuity and the investor confidence. So when we talk about economic stability, part of that trajectory is investor confidence. And so when you have a stable economy, there's greater level of investor confidence. And so the question of continuity versus change is really the reality of this election, not just of this debate tonight, but of the entire election. Do we want to continue on this trajectory of growth? Do we want to continue on this trajectory of stability of the economy? The debt to GDP ratio, they are projecting to be at 60% by 2028. Do we want to continue, or do we want to go on another path that has been untried and unproven?
Well, let me let me come up to the break. Before the break, though, the debt to GDP ratio, that's sort of fixed in law. And if there's any deviation, then there has to be an amendment in the law based on the fiscal rules. But we will come back and say what to expect from the debate coming up. We're back with you in a moment. Emily Shields, and we're going to now look to what exactly should we expect from the debate coming up in approximately 9 minutes. It's on matters of the economy. Let me come to the youngster most. Matthew White, you told us that you really don't know much about the economy, but is this your first time voting or being eligible to vote?
It will be my first time voting.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes.
And I
Thank
trust you will be
you.
voting.
Yes, of course.
Right, and tell me now, for this debate, how important is it, if at all, and what do you expect to hear in the debate coming from the people who are asking the questions and the responses coming from those responding?
So for me personally, it's important because I need, or let me get into what the undecided voters need to hear, because the last debate was not catered towards undecided voters at all. Undecided voters need to hear from the JLP a detailed explanation as to why the massive social platform of the opposition will inevitably end up in, the country's financial ruin. We need to hear that because that has been the inevitable next step of the JLP's campaign messaging. And for the PNP...
Remember, it's 90 seconds, though, you think you'll get that in 90 seconds?
Oh, well, very quickly, the PNP needs to explain the very opposite, or at least to depict why their social welfare program is going to be equivalent to the amount of growth we're getting under the current government.
Right.
Yeah.
They promise to grow larger. The projections at the moment, Dr. Stokes, are for it's 140 billion in revenue over the next 3 fiscal years with growth at 1%. The PNP says they're going to grow faster than 1%, but have you seen in what they have proposed the policy that's going to lead to the growth that has eluded us?
No. I mean, I haven't seen it on either side. This discussion is very interesting to me. The Jamaica Labour Party has been in power for 14 of the last 18 years. But we find ourselves today in a country where the lived experience of too many Jamaicans is bad, where half of our young people have indicated that they wish to migrate. So even though as an economist, I see the macro numbers and it is a good thing, the missing thing is translating that into an improved quality of life for Jamaicans. And the JLP has not delivered on that. They haven't delivered on the 5 in 4. It didn't happen, right? And I think that is if there's an opening for the PNP, that is it. If they can focus and come up with resist the temptation of, giving out goodies and we're here to help poor people, which all too often does the opposite.
Yes.
If they can focus, this is how we are going to grow, and by growing, you are going to do better, then I think that is a worthwhile conversation.
I think I need to take another break, and when I come back, I will hear from my other 2 panelists on what to expect for the debate this evening, and then we'll throw to the actual debate. Stay with us. This is TVJ. We're just a couple of minutes away now from the second debate on matters of the economy. This is a special pre-debate discussion show on television Jamaica. Let me go over to Dr. Jermaine McAlpin. Tell me what you expect from the debate coming up in a few minutes.
Well, what I really hope is that they will tell us where is the money coming from for both their economic plans. I mean, that's pretty obvious. We are hearing a lot about what is to happen and what can happen and the potential for growth, but I want to know, show me the money.
Yes.
Where is the funding coming from for these massive programs?
All right.
Because both of them need to account for the funding mechanism.
Clyde Williams, 20 seconds. What do you expect?
Nothing really. I expect that I'm just saying, I've watched a lot of these 90-second responses. They have to think in bullet points rather than in paragraphs and analysis. So I'm expecting that the parties will come out to shore up their base.
All right.
So at the end of the debates, they want to shore up their base and they'll pitch to the undecided.
All right, and we'll be back right after for the post-debate analysis. We will tell you who is the winner, if there's one. So we're heading over to the Jamaica Debates Commission now for Favour Williams, Drs. Dana Morris Dixon, Dr. Tufton, and for the PNP, Julian Robinson, Peter Bunting, Keisha Anderson. Send your comments and questions to hashtag TVJ Debates 2025. We'll take them in the post-debate analysis.
Welcome to the General Elections Debates, brought to you by the Jamaica Debates Commission in association with Scotiabank for every future, Kendall, the taste of quality, Flow, NCB, Arc Manufacturing, Water, JN Group, Lasco Foundation, Pan Jamaica Group, Miss Birdie, H&L Homes, and VM Group. Tonight, we focus on the economy. Our moderator is George Davis.
Welcome to the second of the political debates organized by the Jamaica Debates Commission and staged before a live studio audience. The debates are intended to assist in identifying, clarifying, and understanding the issues being presented in this.
The general elections.
This evening's debate focuses on the economy and is a team debate. Members of the panel of questioners are Andrea Chisholm, TVJ, Al Edwards, Our Today online financial magazine. Taking and presenting questions from the public is our social media editor, Amoy Harriet, CVM TV. I am your moderator, George Davis. As is customary, the audience is not to applaud the debaters, except for now, after we announce each team. For Team JLP, Dana Morris Dixon. For Team PNP, Julian Robinson. For the JLP, Favour Williams. For the PNP, Keisha Anderson. And for the JLP, Chris Tufton. And for the PNP, Peter Bunting. The guidelines for tonight's debates have been previously agreed and are posted on the Debate Commission's website at www.jamaicadebatescommission.com. The guidelines include questions being no longer than 30 seconds and each team being allowed 90 seconds to respond to each question, and rebuttals are limited to 45 seconds. The questions posed in tonight's debate will come from two sources. The first source is you, the public. Send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to Jamaica Debates. These will be checked, selected, and asked by our social media editor. The second source of questions is from our panel of journalists. Questions are not influenced by the Jamaica Debates Commission in any way. Providing sign language interpretation services this evening is Ms. Jane Litchmore, who teaches sign language at an international level and who previously provided sign language services on the former Jamaica Broadcasting Corporation and Television Jamaica, and who also represented the Jamaica Association for the Deaf. Now, based on a previous coin toss, the first question tonight comes from Andrea Chisholm, and it will be directed to Team PNP.
The PNP has promised to move the income tax threshold to $3.5 million starting April 2026 without any new taxes. How much will it cost? Is the timeline realistic? And which programs will be adjusted to accommodate the increase?
Thank you for that question, Andrew. We are committed to implementing the 3.5 threshold starting April 2026. This will be funded from revenue growth, which currently, based on the 1% growth, is projected to generate an additional revenue of $140 billion over a 3-year period. Additionally, we expect within the envelope that exists in the budget has 4 main components. You have debt servicing, you have salaries and wages, you have the capital budget, and then you have the programmatic budget. As a political party, we would have our own priorities, and we will look at the programmatic budget and make adjustments there. But we will begin implementing the 3.5 million threshold April 2026. However, there are other programs that we have announced that once we assume office, we will immediately, within the envelope that exists for programs, see how we will implement them. For example, ensuring that every needy child gets a hot meal per day. The first in family who goes to university to have a full scholarship. And also the $500,000 grant, which will be given to young first-time owners. So we are going to ensure that we do this in a responsible way fiscally without affecting the budget.
Thank you, Team PNP. Thank you, Team JLP, your rebuttal.
Lies, lies, lies. It cannot be done without imposing new taxes on the backs of Jamaicans. Your 3.5 is the biggest political scam since the history of Jamaica. It cannot be done. You were the people who said when we introduced the 1.5 that it couldn't be done. It would wreck the budget. How do you get from 1.5 to 3.5? It's 3.5 now, right? It used to be 2.3, 3.2, all over the place. Can't be done.
All right. Andrew would like to use the first of her 2 follow-up questions.
For Team PNP, I did not hear the cost of the proposed increase in the threshold, nor the programs to be readjusted to accommodate the increase.
The cost of the increase in the threshold would be $55 billion. Now, no political party implements every single thing in 1 year. So we are going to ensure that the implementation is done, which protects the fiscal sacrifices that have been made and will ensure that the adjustments are consistent with the budget. So it's $55 billion that this particular program will cost. And in terms of the readjustment of programs, that is something that we will do once we get into office. When we look, we have priorities which are different from the current government's priorities. And we will make those adjustments within the envelope of $360 billion, which currently exists for programs in the
Thank
budget.
you, Team PNP. Team JLP, you have a rebuttal, 45 seconds.
Well, first of all, I think we have to be careful about what we hear from that side, because they have been flip-flopping on the issue of income tax threshold and for some time. Their leader has said one thing, then he said he wasn't sure, then he said he wants to do another thing. The principle of increasing the threshold is something that is desirable. Let us be clear, because we did it. We were the ones who came with 1.5. We're moving now to 2.0. And indeed, we are the only government that have reduced taxes in several ways to benefit the Jamaican people. The challenge is the practicality of their solution. This is a one-week proposal, a proposal to win
Thank you,
votes,
Team JLP.
which can't work.
Thank you, Team JLP. Al, you get the chance to pose the first question of the evening to Team JLP.
Hello, good evening. How do you do? On Sunday, the JLP promised to reduce income tax to 15% over a phased basis if it secures a third term in government. This is estimated to cost the country around $135 billion. Where will the money come from to accomplish this, considering there is a projected to be a $35 billion deficit in the budget, and given that many people work in the underground economy?
I'm not sure where that number came from. Our number, based on the technocrats who did it, put it at between 25 to $30 billion. That's our number. That is doable. We are the party that did the 1.5 in a responsible way. We are the party that moved the threshold from 1.5 to 1.7 to 1.8. Next year it'll be 1.9 and then 2.0. We know how to handle the tax affairs, the revenue affairs of the country, and we are going to move with this in a responsible way over time, ensuring that we continue to give back to Jamaicans. You've seen us do the reverse income tax. You've seen us do a number of initiatives, all with the goal of ensuring that the Jamaican people get back monies in their pockets so that they can provide more for themselves and their families.
This administration has been very much the administration that's pragmatic. We have always said to Jamaica what can be done, and then we have done it. We did it with 1.5, and we're doing it again with 2.0, and also our other proposal in terms of 15% income tax. We never say what we cannot do, unlike our opposition.
Thank you, Team JLP. Thank you, Team PNP, your rebuttal. 45 seconds.
I want to remind the country that the 1.5 that they boast about cost the country $31 billion in new taxes implemented by the Jamaica Labour Party. The Minister of Finance is saying her estimate is 25 to 30 billion. She's applying the same Pro Box maths that she said you can use $2,000 a month for buy a Pro Box. The most conservative estimate for their program to reduce the income tax rate is $68 billion. So where do you get your maths from? Tell the country, how will you finance it? Which programs will you cut? Where will the money come from?
Thank you, Team PNP. Social media has a question, Amoy.
Thank you, George. Well, the first social media question tonight comes from Makeda on Instagram. Jamaicans both at home and abroad work tirelessly to support their families and contribute to our economy. Yet high taxes and fees on barrels at the wharf, along with frustrating processes, make it difficult and costly for people sending goods home. If selected to serve, what specific and measurable actions will your party take to reduce these costs and simplify these processes?
Team PNP, 90 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We note the developments in the U.S. and other territories as it relates to remittances, and we're observing the situation. We also note that for Jamaicans going to pick up money at agencies, the cost may increase. And that's why we want to encourage the opening of accounts And with reduced due diligence requirements for these types of accounts, we think more Jamaicans should exercise that option. I think also, though, we want to take a deeper look at the fact that we're so reliant on remittances. At least 20% of our GDP is based on remittances. We need to find a way, in the best interest of Jamaicans, to have them earn more. And that's why Team PNP is looking at options to have our economy grow. We're looking at options in agriculture with the Agricultural Development Fund of 2.5 billion, where we want to teach our farmers smarter and more efficient ways to go about farming. We're looking at options in logistics. Given our position, we're ideally placed to offer logistic and trade facilitation. We also want to look at our BPOs and increase the value of the services that are offered through our BPOs by upskilling our workforce and training our young people in heart, etc., to do these things which are the careers of the future and not to stick to the careers that now exist.
Team JLP, your 90 seconds, well, your 45, well, your rebuttal.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure if we heard the same question. I heard a question that was about or Jamaicans having to clear barrels at the port. And that has been a concern for some of our Jamaicans who do rely on their families overseas to help them. And we, as a country, have always benefited from our diaspora. And that's why we've placed so much emphasis on our diaspora policy through our Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That has been very important. And on that matter, we have focused very much on creating efficiencies at the port. And that's important because we understand that we have a larger vision of Jamaica of becoming a logistics hub. We know that this can happen. It is something that the PNP waxed quite well about, this logistics hub, but did nothing. We have been doing work to expand our port, to also improve efficiencies at the port. In addition to that, we have a new Customs Act. We didn't get to the Senate with it, but we took it through the House, which transforms a lot of the framework for our customs area. And so we are working. We understand the plight of our Jamaicans who depend on these.
debates are presented by the Jamaica Debate Commission, Station for Every Future, Kendall, The Taste of Quality, Flow, NCB, Arc Manufacturing, Water, JM Group, Alaska Foundation, Pan Jamaica Group, Miss Birdie, H&L Homes, and VM Group. Watch, listen, decide, vote.
Welcome back to the Economy Debate presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. We invite you, the public, to send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Send them to Jamaica Debates. Well, we now ask Andrea Chisholm to start this segment with a question for Team JLP.
The public sector wage bill consumes close to 50% of tax revenues. The Independent Fiscal Commission has recommended the reintroduction of a cap on public sector wages as a percentage of GDP. But in March, the Standing Finance Committee of Parliament was told the cap was not being considered. Why was the recommendation ignored?
For the public sector wages, I know when you look back in history, there used to be, it calculated as a percentage of GDP. With our current fiscal rules and our debt to GDP rule, those are the two kind of guardrails that we use on the budget to keep everything in line. If we do that, if we keep that focus on our debt to GDP and on our fiscal balance, then everything in the budget will align, and it would not be necessary, it has not been necessary to keep a cap on the wage bill that way as a percentage of GDP. And as a matter of fact, one time in our history, it was done. When you look back, maybe it was only one time that ratio was ever reached. So there's good faith and confidence in the fiscal balance rules and the debt to GDP in order to help us to keep everything in line in the budget.
Can I also quickly say that this government has done the boldest move to reform and restructure the public sector. First of all, we had 300 different salaries packages, 180 different allowances were consolidated into 16, and it has taken time. We need that time to sort that out.
Jamaica's debt burden, Jamaica's tax burden at 29% of GDP is the highest in the region. Our middle class has been hollowed out by a generation of belt tightening. It is time that our nurses, our teachers, our police officers, our public servants get to enjoy some of the benefits of years of tight fiscal management. It can't always be that when it comes time for the people to benefit, we are talking about managing fiscal rules, etc. We will observe the fiscal rules, but we believe we must do a social transformation for the people.
Time, thank you very much. Question for Team PNP, Al.
The high interest rate FinSec era was devastating for the Jamaican economy. A World Bank debt management paper dated 21/12/2001 reads in part, the ensuing rapid growth of FinSec debt worsened as interest rates continued to rise, leading to a stock debt of $142 billion as of March 2001. That's about 43% of GDP. This added to an already large pre-crisis public debt burden of more than 100% of GDP, leading to an unsustainable debt path. That period also decimated a generation of local entrepreneurs, so much so that a generation later, many are still reticent to invest in the productive sector. What guarantee can you give under your administration that Jamaica will never see history repeating itself, and how do you intend to honor that guarantee?
Well, what we have to ensure is that the agencies that have responsibility for managing and regulating the financial services sector are actually manned by individuals who are competent and professional. The Bank of Jamaica, the Financial Services Commission. Ensuring the BOJ now is an independent agency that has the responsibility for managing interest rates and primarily inflation. At the time when FinSAC took place, the government intervened to ensure that all depositors got back their money. What we want to see is the FinSAC report published. The country spent $150 million on a FinSAC commission, and all now we can't get the report. We want the FinSAC report out. And while you're at it, we will publish the SSL report, because we noticed that depositors have gotten $2. If them did have $100 and there's only $2 them get back. But the most honorable Prime Minister got all his money out of SSL before it collapsed. That is what justice means. We will publish the SSL report, and it is a failure on their part that after all these years, given the impact of FinSAC, that there is no report, no independent report. What we have seen is drips and drabs being leaked out by that side. So when we talk about FinSAC, let's get all the facts on the table and release the Kroll report from SSL.
Time.
Interesting that that side can speak as if they're ignorant of FinSAC, when some on that very side were involved during the FinSAC period and benefited. Just recall the 40-40-40. You mentioned it. 40% of GDP to recover from FinSAC, 40,000 businesses lost their money, 40% being offered by merchant banks to make a profit, and DB&G made on average 40% return on their investments, which one of the principals sits across me right here. They cannot talk about fiscal discipline. They cannot talk about management and economy. They presided over the FinSAC era. They drove people in some instances to commit suicide based on news reports. They have no moral authority and certainly no economic management, and they are still there. The Jamaican people cannot trust them.
Thank you. Time. Al, you wanted to use one of your two follow-up questions?
The first one, yes.
Proceed.
The JLP government has presided over macroeconomic stability. Public debt has come from over 140% of GDP in 2013 to 70% in fiscal year 24-25. Unemployment now stands at just 3.3%. According to Statin, as of July this year, Jamaica's annual headline inflation rate stood at 3.3%. The Bank of Jamaica says as of August 12, 2025, Jamaica's gross international reserves stood at US $6.2 billion. The World Bank, the IMF, the rating agencies all commend Jamaica for this economic performance. How will a PNP government build upon and improve this trajectory?
I think it's important to set context for the question that you have asked. When they left office in 2011, the country was on the precipice of economic collapse. When we got in 2012, we had to restore Jamaica's credibility. We had to establish EPOG. We strengthened and enhanced the fiscal rules. We legislated the debt to GDP ratio so that any government, PNP or JLP, had to pay down that debt. Portia Simpson Miller and Peter Phillips started that race. We passed the baton. We are the persons responsible for the fiscal responsibility that exists today, and we will continue that when we get into office again.
Time. Thank you. Team JLP, you have 45 seconds to rebut.
I am so glad that you named all of those improvements that we've had in our economy. When the PNP was in government, they took a wrecking ball to our economy, and that's a fact. When we took office 9 years ago, we saw high unemployment, we saw high debt, we saw high crime too, and we saw failing infrastructure. And this administration got to work, working on all of those areas. The PNP does not know how to be fiscally responsible. And we have seen that in our history time and time again. And so the data is there. The data shows the Jamaica Labour Party knows how to do it.
Time. Let's take a question from social media. Amoy?
Well, George, this question comes from Facebook. Nikisha is asking, many schools are without basic resources, and as such, some schools are asking parents to contribute certain resources, whether it be in cash or kind. Seeing that economically parents are struggling to pay school fees and meet other needs, how will your administration, if elected, resolve this issue so there will be an ease on parents' pockets?
Team JLP?
Thank you for that question, and we definitely understand the burden that a lot of our parents feel. And it is for that reason that we have focused quite a bit on how we can get our children to school. Let me give you some realities from going around to our schools, especially in rural areas. When I go to school on a Friday, classes are sometimes half empty. And when you ask our teachers why, they say money ran out. What keeps them at home? High transportation costs and also the high cost of lunch. And that's what we have decided to focus on. The rural school bus system is precisely because of that. I had one mother in St. Thomas say to me, it costs her $1,200 a day to send one of her children to school, and that it is so expensive that she ends up having to choose which one goes to school sometimes. We cannot have a country like that. In addition to that, in terms of our meals, we have expanded meals to 5 days a week for those on path who need it the most. In addition to that, we're now going to be adding breakfast to our students in our schools that are the most underperforming. All of that on the backs of the hard work of Minister Williams and the Ministry of Finance team. We understand the costs and we're working hard, including in providing more books in the public sector so that our parents can have less of a burden.
Time, Team PNP, your 90 seconds.
Chris, you're correct that DBNG was a very successful company. And it was a publicly listed company that our audited financial statements were open to the public. So everyone knows where Peter Bunting and Mark Golding got their wealth from. You and your Prime Minister cannot say the same. Now, in terms of our arrangements for public transportation, particularly rural school transportation, that school bus system was a political gimmick. We cannot be buying new trucks to transport garbage, and we're buying 15-year-old buses to transport our most precious cargo, our children. That was just an opportunity for somebody to eat our food. Let us be clear about that. It was totally unsuitable. In deep rural communities, we cannot afford parallel transportation systems, a school bus and a system for adults. So what we have proposed is a subsidy of $10,000 per month per child for those parents who need it, for those children who are unable to attend school 5 days a week. What we have proposed is a hot meal every day for those children who need it. That is real progress.
I'm surprised too, Peter, that the Minister of Education is speaking as if she didn't know all of this.
Time. Andrea, your question for Team JLP.
The requirement for a 12-year experience in law enforcement was removed from the January 2025 job advertisement for the position of Chief Technical Director of the Financial Investigations Division. Why was the law enforcement requirement removed?
I want to make it clear that on the job description for the head of the FID, there are a number of different qualifications that an applicant could have. There were at least 6 different skill sets that that applicant could have. When the whole process of going through recruiting was done outside of the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, and they went through a very public recruitment process. The job was advertised, interviewed. No one qualified to be accepted. Normally, in the course of advertising for jobs, if you go out once, if you go out twice, and you see that you're not getting the skill set, the particular skill set, and the job description allows you to be flexible, then obviously, as a responsible HR person looking to fill the position, then you would do that. That is what was done. There's nothing underhanded about it. It was all transparent. And we have a very competent person heading the FID currently, and I look forward to continue working with him.
Team PNP, your rebuttal.
This is not true. I know as a certain fact that senior police officers with investigative experience for many years, who have coordinated international investigations, who have headed the Intelligence Bureau. They applied for the job and they were turned down. The truth of the matter is it was a set hand. Dennis Chung applied for the job when he said he saw nothing wrong with in the Integrity Commission report. There were clear red flags for money laundering, cash from undisclosed depositor deposited to the Prime Minister's personal account, 470 billion flowing through multiple accounts. That's called layering. These were clear red flags.
Thank you very much. Time. Al, your question for Team PNP.
A look at MSMEs. Many people looking to fund a business in Jamaica bemoan the strangulating red tape and lack of access to finance from lending institutions. In the new century, we're seeing the rise of new types of businesses, young people into digital technology, the creative and services sector. Harold Davis of Jamaica Business Development Corporation makes the point that access to finance has two sides of the coin, and that it's appropriateness of the financial product that is available. And when I say appropriateness, I speak of the product that is right for the particular industry or the particular stage of business of the entrepreneur. What will you do to address this and better help small businesses in Jamaica?
We wholeheartedly agree. As a matter of fact, as a former CEO of a financial institution in Jamaica, I can say it's a problem that we struggled with in the absence of government having adequate policy and facilities to make it happen. We will, as the next PNP administration, ensure that we revisit the loan processes for our MSMEs. We recognize that they're an important part of the engine of growth for the economy, and we recognize their struggles. We note that we would have to help them with some amount of business planning. We'd have to help them to get themselves ready to borrow. But it is a win-win situation. When they borrow, they are able to grow. When they grow, they're able to contribute to the economy, and we will be able to get tax revenues from them. So it's very important for us to have our MSMEs grow, and to also encourage young entrepreneurs in the economy to participate.
What we are going to do is remove income tax for MSMEs for the first 3 years. Why are we doing this? The reason MSMEs remain informal is because they don't want to pay tax. But remaining informal limits their growth because they can only get money from friends and families and a partner draw. So by removing the income tax for the first 3 years, they can formalize, they can grow, they can access bank, equity funding. That is what we are doing to grow the MSME sector.
Time. Thank you. Thank you, Team JLP. Your rebuttal.
PNP talks a good talk, but in reality, that's not the fact. 2015, 8,000 companies were registered with the Company Office. 2024, 23,000 companies, twice that number. The fact is, Jamaicans are more energized to form companies, to come out of the informal sector. DBJ, over that 8-year period, loaned almost $70 billion US, 117 billion of investments, 86,000 applicants. That is why our economy has started to turn around. And I want to say to Peter that he must be careful about innuendos, hearsays, and propaganda. First of all, your FinSac era, I don't know how you're comfortable with it. The Contractor General at the time accused you of sweetheart dealings, you and your partners. You cannot now say that you earned your money in a way that is legitimate and above board.
Time. Amoy had a question from social media.
This question is from TikTok. The user who sent in this question is Kamer Jackson. Under the current administration, brain drain has become an increasingly pressing issue, negatively impacting our economy. Considering the various causes of this trend, such as limited employment opportunities, inadequate compensation, and governance concerns, what specific strategies and reforms would your government implement to address the key drivers of this problem and ensure the retention of skilled professionals?
Team JLP.
Thank you very much for that question, Cameron Jackson. That area of brain drain has been an issue for a long time. I saw it. I left university in 2001, and most of my classmates left this country because they didn't feel there was an opportunity. And it's for that reason why we focused a lot of our policies, and if you look in our manifesto, there's a huge section for young people, because we believe in a few things. We believe that every young person, as they've told us, wants to own a home one day. And that's why we have allocated 15% of every NHT house built to our young people who are under 35. We're also increasing employment. 280,000 more young people have been brought into the labor force. We're providing jobs, and we're looking for higher paying ones through the work that we're doing in terms of training our people. 500,000 young people have been trained since 2020 at Heart, and we're going to continue doing that.
In addition to that, let me remind Jamaica that it is this government that has brought unemployment to its lowest level ever. In fact, the participation rate in the job market is 68%, the highest it has ever been. Under their watch, people lost jobs. They borrowed and spent, or taxed and spent. Under this government, no new taxes, and jobs have been created. This is a more responsible government, and the future of young people are brighter with the JLP.
Thank you. Team PNP, your 90 seconds to answer the question.
Raising the tax threshold to 3.5 million, the tax-free threshold to 3.5 million, is one of the most fundamental and revolutionary things we can do to retain our best and brightest. As I said, this is a manifesto that we've put forward, not just about a campaign for the next election. This is about the next generation. We want to ensure that our teachers, our nurses, our police officers can provide for their families in the way they should. We want to rebuild the working class and the middle class. We want to ensure that buying a house, buying a car, aspiring to improve, to lift your whole generation is not merely a dream. So yes, what we have proposed is radical. It's transformational. It's going to require a shaking up and a reordering of all the priorities of government. That's not accidental. We're working for a social revolution. People are not going to elect a new government to do the same thing that the outgoing one is elected to do.
When I hear them speak, I wonder which young people they're speaking about. When I speak to young people, they tell me they have no hope of owning a home. With the NHT limit being raised to 9 million, the problem is that the houses cost 40 million. There's no hope.
Time, Mr. Sanders, time. We now take a short break and invite you to stay tuned.
The general elections debates are presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. Watch, listen. With Scotiabank for every future. Kendall, the taste of quality. Flow, NCB, Arc Manufacturing, Water, JN Group, Lasco Foundation, Pan Jamaica Group, Miss Birdie, H&L Homes, and VM Group. Watch, listen, decide, vote.
Welcome back to the Economy Debate presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. We invite you, the public, to send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Send them to Jamaica Debates. We'll now ask Andrea to start this segment with a question for Team PNP.
Described the 0% in year one as an insult to public sector workers. The party says they have looked at the budget and fiscal policy paper and will do better for the public sector workers if elected. What percentage increase would a PNP administration propose?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say, we are going to treat public sector workers with respect and dignity. I won't talk to the JTA president like the Minister of Education and say him performing at his conference. That is disrespect. Disrespect is when you need to get a meeting, you have to get restive and threaten strike action. The fiscal policy paper has, in its first year, 9%. In the second year, 6%. In the third year, 6%. They have offered 0. That is not an offer. We will do better. But by lifting the income tax threshold to 3.5 million, we are easing the pressure. We ease in the pressure on our nurses. We ease in the pressure on our policemen. We ease in the pressure so that more money will be in their pockets. They have a history of dealing with civil servants with disrespect. You right now have 2 sets of civil servants in the same office doing the same thing and earning different salaries. A whole set of anomalies that arose from the public sector compensation review. They haven't addressed it. There's supposed to be a meeting tomorrow with the JCTU and you cancel it. They are the ones who treat them with disrespect. We have a history of working with our public sector in the interest of this country, and we will continue to do so. So when we come into office, it will be better than 0% because there is money in the budget to provide better for public servants.
Team JLP, your rebuttal.
This is the government that has given the public sector the largest wage increase in the history of Jamaica. What did the public sector know under the PNP? Wage freeze after wage freeze after wage freeze. We are committed to continue negotiating with our unions. Negotiation is a process. We still remain at the table. Our Prime Minister has indicated that we will get to a point that is satisfactory for the public sector workers and for Jamaica as a whole. We remain committed to the public sector workers.
Time, Mrs. Williams, time. Thank you. Al, your question to Team JLP.
In fiscal year 2013-14, the then Minister of Finance, Peter Phillips, balanced the budget. Minister Phillips met the targets for the primary surplus and the budget deficit. The JLP said at the time, including you, Minister Williams, that the then PNP government was preoccupied with passing the IMF test and not the people's test. Can it be said of this JLP administration that it is preoccupied with reducing the debt instead of growing the economy and passing the people's test?
We are passing the people's tests. If you look at what we have done, what we have achieved, all that we have achieved, we have done it for the people of Jamaica. Look at roads, look at new jobs created, look at the level of inflation, look at the number of houses that are being built. We are going gangbusters. Every day we wake up, it is to grow the economy. During our administration, we have grown the economy. We have had 33 quarters of growth, interrupted only by COVID and by Hurricane Beryl. We wake up every day to ensure that this economy expands so that there are opportunities for our men and women in the society.
When we speak of the people's test, all these nice economic jargon about GDP and debt to GDP ratio and all of that don't mean anything to the ordinary person, to most of our Jamaicans. What they think about is how is everything that we're doing affecting the quality of their life. We're giving more water. 350,000 more people have water. 280,000 more jobs created. We are improving the quality of life of our people.
Team PNP, your rebuttal.
What I want to ask every Jamaican, is your life better? Can you afford the same things you used to be able to afford? Do you have to choose between paying your utilities, buying food, or buying medication? Is your life better?
The lived reality, notwithstanding the macroeconomic numbers of most Jamaicans, is a struggle to put food on the table. When you go to the supermarket or the corner shop, you pick up things and you have to put it back down. If you suffer the misfortune of going to a hospital, you have to sit down on one chair for 2 or 3 days. And what we have seen at Cornwall Regional, it moved from 1.5 billion to 25 billion. That is the waste that we will eliminate so we can put money back in the hands of the Jamaican
Thank you very
people.
much. Time. Al would like to use this second and final follow-up question. Al.
According to the World Bank, the Jamaican economy average annual growth over the last decade is around 0.8%. Why is this? And what will you do to get it to around 5%?
Thanks for that question. Thanks for that question on growth. There have been many impediments to growth, and we have seen that documented in many places. If we look at the impediments, they include training, and we're doing that, 500,000 trained. Another impediment to growth is the high electricity cost, and we have taken the decision to not continue on that bad JPS contract because we know we need to have lower electricity costs. In addition to that, infrastructure is another impediment to growth, and that's why we've spent so much money on fixing our roads, providing internet access across this country, and improving our investments in technology. We understand that in order to bring the growth rate up, we are going to have to do these things.
You have 45 seconds.
What they haven't spoken about is how corruption has impacted that growth. How our foreign direct investment has moved from 900 million in 2015 to 300 million today. That 11 of them are under investigation for illicit enrichment. I, Julian J. Robinson, can categorically state, I am not under investigation. Can the three of you say that? We need growth. We understand the assignment now. We have consolidated our economy. We have to improve the outcomes in education, which have been poor. You talk about energy. It took you 8 years to put out a request for proposal for renewables. Why? Because of the corruption at the Ministry of Education, where you see 4 ministers over 8 years.
Time. Thank you. Social media, Amoy.
All right, so we're on TikTok, and I'm seeing a question here from Joe. Policies often target low-income earners, while high-income earners are generally believed to be able to manage on their own. What in your plans directly supports middle-income Jamaicans who are caught in the squeeze?
Team PNP.
So the contrast between the JLP's approach of reducing the income tax rate for everyone versus the PNP's approach of lifting the threshold is a prime example of that. The cabinet ministers and the prime ministers will benefit the most from the reduction in the rate of income tax. Police officers, nurses, doctors, security guards, public servants, those who are at the rank and file of the police level, everyone who earns under 3.5 million will be the major beneficiaries of our program. That is what differentiates our approach from theirs. They talk about prosperity. It's prosperity for them and their cronies. When we talk about putting people at the center of our policies and programs, it's because we want to lift everyone. We want to lift those at the bottom. We want to build out the middle class. We want education to become a bridge from one generation to another to move them to another level in society.
And we will continue to lift the standards of the majority of the Jamaican people. the income tax threshold. We're going to remove tax on overtime so that our security guards, our nurses will get a break and you put more money in their pockets.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Team JLP.
The PNP does not understand how the economy works. First of all, they talk about our performance. Our performance we're very proud of. We created the lowest poverty rate in the country on record. We created more jobs with more participation in the economy on record. And while we're doing that, we are building out new industries in digital technology, in our port facilities, for logistics hub, as well as maintaining and building on the traditional industries that are there. Most persons in Jamaica today, young persons who have a skill, can find a job. That was not the case under the People's National Party. And I want to just come back to this issue of corruption, because they seem to think that they can speak about things in mid-air without any evidence, innuendos and suppositions, as if people are going to accept that. What the Jamaican people want is who is going to look after them, who will bring down crime. Peter Bunting depended on divine intervention without work. In fact, he is on record, I believe, as the only Minister of National Security who was unable to secure himself. And I am happy he's okay from that unfortunate incident in Portland. But it speaks to confidence in their policy to reduce crime. This government has reduced crime by the lowest over 30 years. And this is what Jamaicans want. They felt unsafe under the PNP. They feel a lot safer under the Jamaica Labour Party.
Mr. Tufton, thank you. Time. We now take a short break and invite you to stay tuned.
The general elections debates are presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. Watch, listen, decide, vote.
Tomorrow's success will depend on the decisions we make today.
The general elections debates are presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission in association with Scotiabank for every future, Kendall, the taste of quality, Flow, NCB, Arc Manufacturing, Water, JN Group, Lasca Foundation, Pan Jamaica Group, Miss Birdie, H&L Homes, and VM Group. Watch, listen, decide, vote. The general
Welcome back to
election.
the economy debate presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. We invite you, the public, to send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Send them to Jamaica Debates. We now ask Andrea to start the final segment, with a question for Team JLP.
The central bank has cut its policy interest rate from 7% in July 2024 to 5.75% in August 2025. The regulator has been pleading with the banks, the commercial banks, to further reduce lending rates, but it's not happening fast enough. What will your administration do to further pressure banks to cut their lending rates?
So we are seeing interest rates come down, and we're getting early signs that the rates to borrowers is also coming down. Just recently, I was speaking to the DBJ. You know that the DBJ on-lends to the banks to lend to our MSMEs, and DBJ reported that they are seeing lower rates in the marketplace from banks. As the Bank of Jamaica bring rates down, which it will, we fully expect that our borrowers are going to begin to see lower rates in the marketplace on the various loans.
I think that the reforms that are taking place within the banking sector, the independent central bank, which has to drive this issue. That's why we supported the independence of the central bank. And competition, what we have been working on, but I do agree we need to work on it more, and this is for the next administration, is to make it easier for someone to move their account from one bank to the next. We believe ultimately in the market, within reason, of course, with a regulatory framework. Not like them who allowed an attempt at liberalization that drove us into FinSA.
Thank you, Team PNP, your rebuttal.
Before the break, Chris had the gall of claiming success with crime. The fact is that more Jamaicans have been murdered under this JLP administration, almost 13,000 murdered in their 2 terms than in any other 2 terms in the history of Jamaica. That is failure, not success. We commend the police for the job they've been doing this year in reducing it, but you can't take credit for that. That's despite your failed SOE policies.
What we will do to ensure that the banking sector is more competitive, we are going to ensure government deposits. There's a system to ensure that all banks participate in government deposits.
Thank you. Al, I invite you to pose a question to Team PNP.
The former CEO of Grace Kennedy, the late Don Webby, consistently called on Jamaica to reduce its food importation bill by half by 2030. Given that Jamaica spends around $1 billion a year on imported food, and according to the FAO, Jamaica's food imports account for approximately 21% of its total merchandise imports, what will your government be doing to reduce the food importation in a meaningful way?
Under the JLP administration, the imported food cost has doubled. It was $800 million 10 years ago. It is now $1.6 billion. That 800 million US dollars, or about 150 billion Jamaican dollars, should be going into the pockets of the farmers of South Manchester, South St. Elizabeth, and farmers all over Jamaica. We have committed to forming an agricultural development fund. This is going to ensure that we inject new technology, new machinery into our farming communities. It's going to ensure that we put adequate post-harvest storage and processing facilities in place to reduce the 30% or more that's lost. we are going to ensure that funding is available for our farmers.
And we commit to the Jamaican people and to the farmers of Jamaica to reduce importation by 25% in our first term. We also commit to helping farmers access financing at more affordable rates and terms. We also commit to helping them with products such as insurance to ensure that when natural disasters hit, the impact to them for recovery is not as high.
Team JLP, your report.
First of all, there is a need to do more to develop our local industry for self-sufficiency, but also for export. The fact is, this government has done a lot. In fact, if you look at the last 8 years on domestic export has gone up by some 31%. What it means is that more local companies within a much friendlier environment are in fact producing and exporting. But it is a fact that we are importing more at the same time. That is simple. We have an economy that affords the capacity to demand more. We have a thriving tourism industry, and we have a consumer who is earning more. This will contribute to a greater demand. It's a process, but it's also a sign of success by this government.
Thank you. Andrea, I invite you to pose a question to Team JLP.
Major platforms such as Meta, Google, and TikTok are earning money and data from the Jamaican economy, but they are not paying taxes in Jamaica. What policy changes will your administration pursue to ensure that Jamaica directly collects taxes from these platforms?
So we recognize that those companies that you mentioned are not paying tax to the Jamaican government. We have our tax entities in conversation with these entities to ensure that the Jamaican people get their fair share of taxes from these companies. We sit on some of the international bodies that look at taxes across different countries to ensure that there's fairness in what's being done. And I know that we will pursue it vigorously to ensure that Jamaica is not left out as these companies thrive on our data.
What's important to also note is that a lot of our young people are using these platforms. I know recently I saw someone on TikTok selling some nice products that I thought about buying. So our young people are using these platforms very well, and they're creating content that is absolutely amazing. And so we have the tax side that the minister has said that we're looking at in a more multilateral kind of approach, as we tend to do as Jamaicans. But also, there are also other concerns too in relation to artificial intelligence. They're using a lot of our creative energy. They're using our music. They're using our cultural ideas. And those are going into AI programs, and that's something we have to look at.
Rebuttal, Team PNP.
It's clear that there's no policy to deal with this. This is where we have to work with our CARICOM states to develop a common policy. Why? Because these are large multinationals. Their GDP would dwarf the entire Caribbean region. And so it requires some consensus among the region to ensure that you implement a policy which every country agrees to and that you can stand the test of time. We recognize the importance of our creatives. That's why we are establishing a $1 billion fund, not like the film fund that has disbursed zero, but a $1 billion fund for creatives, for artists or singers or potters, the people who create content so they can build their businesses.
Thank you. Social media, Moy.
On social media platform X, Sean from Kingston says, free healthcare means little if hospitals don't have CT machines, x-rays, or even basic supplies. What short-term financial measures will you take within the first 2 years, if you win, to fix these shortages and ensure patients can actually access proper care?
Team PNP, you go first.
You know, I really wanted the Minister of Health to focus on these issues, but him seem more preoccupied with dealing with FinSAC and other people's business.
30 years
Because
ago.
if he spent more time dealing with Cornwall Regional, we wouldn't have a $25 billion overrun. If he spent more time dealing with the hospital sector, when people go there, they wouldn't have to sit on a wooden chair for 3 days. And when they have to do an MRI or CT scan, they have to pay $50,000 for go. And the same ambulance for take them have to pay for it too. And them can't get toilet paper in the hospital. Our health sector is failing despite the amount of money we have spent. It is the inefficiency of the Jamaica Labour Party why we are here. We are going to ensure the dignity of Jamaicans who have to traverse our public health system. They have been failed by this administration. And that is why we are committed to ensuring that monies which come into the coffers go for the benefit. So when we look on the drill and we drill down, it shouldn't cost $31 million for a $3 million drill. Because what does that do? When you go to the hospital, you have to pay now based on that wastage, that corruption, and that inefficiency. What can go so, Jamaica? How can you feel comfortable?
There are currently no CT scan or MRI services available at Mandeville Regional Hospital because the private providers have not been paid.
Time, Team JLP.
Well, let me just start by saying I wasn't the one in 2015 who said we had to use garbage bags as aprons or cut a soap in two. That is their spokesperson of health who spoke about the crisis in the system. So we have come a long way, and we started from a very low base. It is incorrect to say we don't have CT scan, just to say to your social media person. We have CT scans, we have MRIs. In fact, we have more digital machines in our health system than any time before. We need more, but we have done better than the PNP up to 2015 when they were there. Oh, I have more time. Let me also say, because I have a lot to say, that we have embarked on the largest expansion of hospital build-out than any other government since independence, the largest upgrading of health centers than any other government since independence. We have hired we have put in our establishment over 3,000 doctors and nurses, double the numbers of community health aides, and last year we served up 3 million prescriptions to Jamaicans on the National Health Fund. In their 2015 year, they did less than 1 million. The facts are that more Jamaicans are being served by our health system. Do we need to do more? I am the first to say yes, which is why we need the next term to complete the work that we are doing. They talk about the issue, they did nothing. As far as corruption is concerned, that's innuendos and talk, no proof of that, and I condemn them for that kind of position.
Time. Thank you. All right, we're at that segment, at that point in the debate where we allow the teams to ask a question of the other, yeah? So we're going to start with Team JLP posing a question to Team PNP.
Thank you. It is our considered view that the 3.5 million threshold increase that was recently announced is nothing but a Sam-Fi political scam. In the beginning, it was 2.1, then it became 3, then it disappeared, and then it appeared 1 week before an election. You have to tell the people of Jamaica, I ask you to tell the people of Jamaica, is this just an election scam, or is it that you are going to be cutting much needed services such as NHF, where we spend $19 billion for drugs in hospitals, or university spending, which is $17 billion? Tell us how you plan to really cut discretionary areas, as you have called them.
I answered the question already, but I'm going to answer it again for the Jamaican people. I have said we are going to raise the threshold to $3.5 million. How are we going to do that? We're going to do that because your budget says that $140 billion of additional government revenues will be earned over 3 years. But that is at your 1% growth, which you have no ambition on. We're going to grow the economy by more than that so that we can pay for these things. There's also a benefit when you put more money in the hands of people because they're going to spend it, which will allow the government to collect more on GCT and other indirect taxes. We are the party committed to ensuring that all Jamaicans thrive and not just a few Our plan is better. It is more equitable. Their plan will benefit the richer people more. Ours will benefit the working people, our nurses, our policemen, the security guards, the civil servants, to put more money to ease the pressure of the cost of living that they have to face. That is our commitment as a party of social justice and equality. So when you talk about Samfire, what Samfire you're talking about? Madness you're talking about? We will deliver on behalf of the Jamaican people. We have a history of protecting our most vulnerable and ensuring that they have more money to spend so that they can protect their families and those around them.
Time. JLP, you have a 45-second rebuttal.
Jamaicans, the 3.5 million threshold is the largest political scam. They cannot tell you how they're going to fund it. They look at the current budget, they see the projections growing to 140 billion, but they don't tell you that expenses are also growing. So that's not available for you to use towards the 3.5. And you also put out an ad showing how much people are going to get on a monthly basis. You know that's a lie. They may get it for 1 month, but it's not going to be there. The 3.5 that you're talking about cannot be done.
Williams, thank you. Time. Team PNP, your turn to pose a question to Team JLP.
How can you be trusted to keep promises when you've broken promises on impeachment legislation, unexplained wealth orders, term limits, grand referenda? You've attacked the Integrity Commission relentlessly. You've undermined them. You have even failed to sign the Code of Conduct, basic principles dealing with integrity, honesty, selflessness, and accountability. How can anybody take your word? How do they know that those candidates who are under investigation for illicit enrichment are not offering themselves out there right now to the public, secretly knowing that they are corrupt? The clock isn't working, by the way.
Oh, the clock isn't. Okay, I'm just going to still go ahead and answer that question. It's a very curious question because I know in the 90s when I became politically aware, I remember politics and scandals. I remember hearing light bulb scandal, fat cat scandal, and then the mother of all scandals, FinSac. When you look in your dictionary and you look for scandal, you see the PNP right there. In terms of the Integrity Commission, it is this administration that implemented it. It is this administration that puts $2 billion annually to it. It is this administration in our manifesto that says we're going to strengthen our corruption prevention mechanisms in this country. It is this administration that has delivered Jamaica's best anti-corruption score. And it's not us that said it. It is an international body, Transparency International. We have been the ones that have been taking Jamaica on the path of anti-corruption, not the PNP.
In addition to that, let me just say very clearly that the Jamaican people are concerned about their lives, their livelihood, their communities, and by extension, Jamaica. They talk, we deliver. We have delivered the lowest unemployment, the lowest poverty, reduced crime despite Peter's objection by over 40%, the lowest in 30 years. That is what is important to the people of Jamaica.
Thank you, Mr. Tufton. Thank you. Team PNP, you have a 45-second rebuttal.
It's interesting that they say that people are concerned about their standard of living because they're talking about things that happened in the 90s. That's over 30 years ago. Young people who are listening, does that affect your life now? Yet still, they're not speaking about the scandals that young people, anybody 25 years and younger, would have experienced what happened with rural reading education, to the point that education is behind. We are celebrating as a country five subjects being attained by 19% of our children. That's 1 in every 5. Is your child one of the 5 that is attained in 5 subjects? And if your child is not, what is happening to them? Our standards are too low. What happened to the used car scandal? What happened to Petrodam scandal, and I'm sure there are many others. Come on, man. 30 years ago, you're talking about.
Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. Thank you. Time. Okay. What we're going to do now is this. We're going to invite Team PNP to deliver a closing statement of 2 minutes in length.
Jamaica, the current macroeconomic figures look good, but what is your lived reality? What do you go through every single day? The reality you face is that you are living hand to mouth. You are working, but you can only afford to go to work and come back based on the wages that you earn. You are working poor. 55% of Jamaicans are considered food insecure, which means they cannot afford to eat a proper meal per day. If they go to the hospitals that Chris supposed to build, them can't find toilet paper or a bed. Jamaica, you deserve better. Time come for a better life. The next People's National Party administration will lift the tax threshold to 3.5 million so we can put more money in the pockets of working Jamaicans. We are going to eliminate the tax on overtime so that, again, people can get a break. The same people who are working hard to build our economy. We are going to run a more efficient economy so that this thing called the Office of Plenty Ministries, that is a bottleneck where nothing can go through and it takes you a year to do something. We're going to eliminate those efficiencies so that we can grow the economy beyond 1%. We are going to ensure that anybody who is the first in their family gets a scholarship, and that means for persons who are currently at university. We are going to ensure that those who are buying a house get the $500,000 deposit. And I want to assure persons who earn over 3.5 million that this tax benefit is for you too. So what are we going to do? We're going to build a Jamaica in which all Jamaicans can feel a part of. So come September 3rd, when you go to the polling station, I want you to think carefully. I want you to use your head and put the X beside the head.
Time. Thank you. May I add that the order of the closing statement was predetermined by a coin toss. Team JLP, your 2 minutes.
My fellow Jamaicans, in 2016, you asked the Jamaica Labour Party, you gave them your vote of confidence to correct the ills within our economy caused by the People's National Party. They served 24 of 27 years and created more debt, more unemployment, more poverty than any other administration. Fast forward to today, 2025, we have the lowest poverty rate, we have the lowest unemployment rate, we have a macroeconomic stable society, we have more companies registering to start their business, we have crime that has been the monster of your business, your personal life, down the lowest in 30 years, all by the policies of this government. We still have some ways to go. Our hospital and health centers have embarked on the largest expansion and build out. They left it as a disaster. We have had to correct it. We ask you, on September 3rd, give the Jamaica Labour Party the opportunity to continue the work. We have done more for you than any other administration, and certainly more than the PNP has ever done. They are now coming with a one-week plan, essentially, to get your vote by claiming 3.5 when they rejected our 1.5 when we started. They don't know how to get us there. We will get you there. We are about protecting yourselves, your families, your communities by doing what is necessary. That is all that matters. Their diversion around innuendos, rumors, targeting persons, and character assassination does not impact you in your community. It is about the water, the road, the health services, and this government has done more. On the 3rd of September, put your X beside the bell, vote for the Jamaica Labour Party.
Thank you. In the good spirit of the debates, we invite Team JLP and Team PNP to meet in the middle and shake hands. You can applaud. All right. That concludes That concludes the economy debate between Dana Morris Dixon, Favour Williams, and Christopher Tufton for Team Jamaica Labour Party, and Julian Robinson, Keisha Anderson, and Peter Bunting for Team PNP. Join us again Thursday, August 28, 9 p.m. sharp for the final debate in the 2025 General Election Debate Series, the Leaders Debate, featuring party leaders Dr. Andrew Holness from the JLP and Mark Golding from the PNP. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to our studio audience, our production crew, production and recording partners, and most of all, our viewers and listeners all across Jamaica and the diaspora. I am George Davis.
Well, the second debate on the economy has ended. It's time for the post-debate analysis. I'm Emily Shields, and back with us are development economist Dr. Chris Stokes, Matthew White, who is a Jamaican Association for Deaf and Empowerment member, Jade. On Zoom, we have political scientist Dr. Jermaine McAlpin and political analyst Clyde Williams. Welcome back, gentlemen. Dr. McAlpin, I begin with you, since I didn't get to hear a lot from you during the pre-debate discussion. Your thoughts on the debate, your major takeaway from it?
A massive increase in personal attacks, a lot of ad hominem attacks. I still didn't hear a lot of the specifics, especially the big ticket question about the funding. Where's the money coming from?
Yes.
There were some important sidebars in terms of the back and forth about the strength of the economy and who is to get credit and who isn't to get credit. But I think all in all, I didn't get anything that would convince me that either of them have a sound economic plan. And simply, it's just electioneering. It's stagecraft. So all of this reference to 3.5 and 1.5, it's stagecraft, all in the politics of play. But I'm not convinced in terms of the structure of their plans and the feasibility, sustainability, the reliability of those plans, especially the funding mechanism. I really wanted to hear beyond the speeches, we're going to grow and that's where the money is going to come from.
Right. Let me go to Clyde Williams. Your thoughts, Clyde?
Well, you recall I started with low expectations, so I'm not surprised. These debates, people need to understand this is a political debate. It is the target audience is very diverse. So the parties are coming to play what they are campaigning, and that's how political debates go. It wasn't helped by especially Al in terms of his questions. He gave two examples of the questions. He went way back in history to talk about FinSAC, and he also went way back in history to talk about Peter Phillips' balance in the budget as the base for questions. Rather than, I didn't get the impression that there was much reading of the respective economic proposals in the manifesto, because I didn't get that sense. So I don't think he helped in terms of focusing the debate around the economy. So the debate became a debate around their talking points, the campaign points. Mm-hmm. So Bunting and Julian Robinson hitting the corruption perception. Now, Jermaine, I hear you saying, Indians and so on, but that's their campaign point. Corruption perception. The JLP is hitting. We have done it fiscally. We have managed it properly. You even hear Mr. Tufton talking about just before, after one of the breaks, about social issue, the health sector at length in an economy debate. So I didn't expect much, but I will close by saying in my initial point is that the base of both sides will leave this debate, in my opinion, happy. That their players have played well because they have played to their base, they have played to their campaign strategies, and that's how these debates turn out.
Let me hear you, Matthew White.
I'm not that disappointed by this debate, actually. I was more disappointed in the last one. I think in terms of actual material and hearing the specifics of the funding for either budget or either proposed economic policies, the PNP came out very clear. I think they made a very important distinction for their funding. We're going to fund our 3.5 million threshold increase from the 1% of economic growth that the JLP government has been able to sustain for this past 5 years. And the JLP didn't really rebut that idea very well, but if they were, it would be a concession that we don't get that much money out of economic growth in the first place. And in terms of the ad hominem attacks, certainly they were disappointing, and the relying on campaign talking points, that's just where the debate went. That's just where the debate went, based on the questions and based on the type of persons that all the panelists were. It's just where it went. And some persons performed better than others in that respect.
Dr. Stokes.
Yeah. I think it was a very important debate. I think it laid bare and laid very clearly the choice that is before Jamaica. I think the JLP's tack was these guys can't manage the economy. They've never been able to manage the economy. We have managed the economy well, and they point to the macroeconomic numbers, right? The PNP, again, to its credit, after many, many years, has positioned itself squarely on the wicket of addressing the issue of the hollowed, what Peter Bunting calls the hollowed out middle class. He spoke about a social revolution, right? So the distinction between the macro is good, don't worry about it, we have it covered, versus to me, the most striking question of the evening, rhetorical question of the evening, from Keisha Anderson, is your life better off today? And that is the thing, after all of these macroeconomics, is your life better off? And I think that is what the Jamaican, do we are we going to go what the JLP has done? They have stabilized. We can discuss, the patrimony of that, which is a little bit of a waste of time, but people seem interested in that. Versus rebuilding the country, the working person, rebuilding the middle class, and so on. It's an important distinction that I think was drawn, and it gives Jamaicans something to vote on. I was never expecting any specifics on funding. If I heard it, I think it would have been irresponsible, because I think you have to get in and see what's in front of you before you start making those decisions.
Right.
The PNP calls it, Emily, the lived reality. I think that sums up some of the points my friend was saying about the lived reality versus the macroeconomic reality. Again, a campaign talking point.
Expand a bit further on that for me, because just listening to Dr. Stokes, the thinking through on this has to be, some truth-telling has to come at some point in time. Because if the macroeconomy is not properly aligned, there can be little or no benefit to the man and woman in Jamaica. When we had the overhang of debt of about 147% of GDP, we couldn't go to any multilateral and get any loan at any reasonable interest rate. And that is why the debt downward climb is important. So it was a brilliant question to ask, are you better off? But somebody has to tell the people that you will be better off only if and when macroeconomy is in alignment, and also there's a way in which things are getting to you over a period of time. It can't happen all abruptly. Go ahead, Clyde.
Emily, I don't think the PNP disagrees with that at all. In fact, if you heard Julian Robinson, he's been very clear about that in terms of the macroeconomic. But I don't agree with you about if the economy grows, the people will be better off. In the 1960s, when the Jamaican economy grew at its highest, averaging about 5 to 6% for many years, during that time, inequality in Jamaica also increased.
But that's a different point, Clyde. Inequality.
Let me finish my point. Let me finish.
Go ahead and finish. Go ahead and finish. Because inequality is different from living conditions. Go ahead.
I've raised that to make a very simple point. That economic growth and macroeconomic benefits by themselves will not inure to the benefit of working people and the working poor unless there are structural changes in the Jamaican economy. Example, access to finance
I agree with that.
and capital. So I'm just saying to you, that's the only point I'm making in terms of the comparison, that it is necessary but not sufficient.
I agree with you on that last point, and I'm going to bring in Matthew. Why I say that is because we're coming from a position where our wage per capita used to be on par with Barbados, with Trinidad in the early decades. They are now at US $20,000. We are just at $7,000, and that is because of the recent wage adjustment. Yes. So
but let's talk about the debaters, though. Let's talk about the debate.
We are getting back to the debate now. Matthew is coming in. Matthew is coming in on that.
Yes, let's talk about the debate.
Yes, go ahead.
Can I just introduce a nuance that I think the JLP was trying to leverage in pointing out to you that they do understand that there's a massive difference between the macroeconomic state of the country and how the regular man has felt it. And Dr. Dana really tried her very hardest this evening to point out what is fiscally responsible and prudent to do with the level of growth that we are at currently. But I think the messaging from them was supposed to be, or she tried to make it look like, was we're trying our very best here. And we do have policies and implementations that are trying to get you to better growth. She's saying that the impediments to growth, such as infrastructure, access to internet, we're trying to fix those things. And we can only do that at a staged pace. But she needed help to do that. And none of the other two members on her panel could help her in pushing forward that message.
Yeah, but I don't agree. I don't agree.
Yes.
And I think part of the challenge is what optics are we using to assess the content or the delivery, the structure, all of the things that we're talking about, because PNP has more ground to cover because they are trying to look the work. They're trying to get the work.
Yes.
The JLP has the work. And so there are two different kind of trajectories. So they had different talking points and different selling points. But the larger question is, when we talk about the content of the debate, JLP is articulating that it's a safer bet.
Yes.
And that PNP is a riskier choice. That is what I got from the debate. That one has to direct one's attention to the reality that, look, we are safer. Yes, we haven't grown as much as we intend to, but do you want now to give the other person an opportunity to remove some of the advances that we've made? That for me is the larger question.
Then you didn't get any question arising from the PNP's presentation, Jeremy?
Yes, I did, because there were 17 questions.
Yeah. What did you see them saying? What do you see them saying?
I see the PNP saying that we can do better than they have done, and we can do this more equitably. I think the deceit in that kind of perspective.
You call it a deceit.
Hold on,
No,
hold on. Let him use the word he wants to use, and then you can comment. Go ahead, Doctor.
The deceit in that argument is that you cannot do that kind of social equity transformation, the social revolution, without stability.
But I don't think, hang on, I want to say this quickly.
Yes,
No,
Clyde,
allow me
quickly,
a
and
minute,
then we go
please. I
to
want to
social
say
media.
this quickly.
Yes.
The PNP, during the debate, did not at all deny that. In fact, what they're saying is that the foundation that we have here, we can build on that foundation.
No, they said that they built the foundation.
Hang on. I'm just saying, if you say to me the argument is weak, but to use deceit and then use that as the example is rather loaded.
All right, just hold on for me. Just hold on for me, please, Clyde. Hold on, Dr. McAlpin. Let me go to Jamila Maitland, because we're taking some comments from social media. Hashtag TVJ Debates 2025. What do you have there, Jamila?
Thank you so much, Emily. So we have been talking to our friends, or receiving some feedback from our friends on Facebook, Instagram, and X about their reactions from tonight's debate. And we are gonna be carrying some of them right now.
Yes.
So we have Shamara Kramer, and she says, low unemployment, but everybody in the workplace is highly stressed because of low income. We're gonna take some more. Kian says, there is no, quote, live within our means, end quote. The cost of food, utilities, and housing takes away most of our income. We could take a couple more. Scorpion says, no more debate without a fact-checking clerk. No more eloquent lies, end quote, in the national debate. And we saw this response coming up over and over and over again, even in debate night 1. We have, what non-taxable revenue sources will the government employ to cover tax strains? Maybe we could take 2 more or 1 more. I'm concerned about wages for hotel workers. We saw that especially on our YouTube feed from persons living in Western Jamaica and those who are on the North Coast as well. So we have Shanoy saying, Favour is a great finance minister. She's just not a good public speaker. We saw that comment coming in a few times, and in response to Julian Robinson, we saw people, more praising his response as being timely, being more coherent, and the content being there as well.
Right, so I believe we're coming up on a break now. When we come back, we'll perhaps get down to some more nuts and bolts in the post-debate analysis. It was on the matters of the economy. Keep sending your comments to hashtag TVJ Debates 2025, and we'll take them right after this break. Thank you. We're back with you on the post-debate analysis. I'm Emily Shields, and I rejoin in studio Matthew White, who is officer with the Jamaica Association for Debating and Empowerment, also development economist Dr. Chris Stokes, and on electronic platform political sciences Dr. Jermaine McAlpin, and political analyst Clyde Williams. If we could just queue up that question, the very first question asked by Andrea Chisholm about the 3.5 million for the movement in the income tax threshold, and the response by Julian Robinson to that question, and then the rebuttal. Let's have that.
Question, Andrew. We are committed to implementing the 3.5 threshold starting April 2026. This will be funded from revenue growth, which currently, based on the 1% growth, is projected to generate an additional revenue of $140 billion over a 3-year period. Additionally, we expect within the envelope that exists in the budget has 4 main components. You have debt servicing, you have salaries and wages, you have the capital budget, and then you have the programmatic budget. As a political party, we would have our own priorities, and we will look at the programmatic budget and make adjustments there. But we will begin implementing the 3.5 million threshold April 2026. However, there are other programs that we have announced that once we assume office, we will immediately, within the envelope that exists for programs, see how we will implement them. For example, ensuring that every needy child gets a hot meal per day. The first in family who goes to university to have a full scholarship. And also the $500,000 grant, which will be given to young first-time owners. So we are going to ensure that we do this in a responsible way fiscally without affecting the budget.
Thank you, Team PNP. Thank you, Team JLP, your rebuttal.
Lies, lies, lies. It cannot be done without imposing new taxes on the backs of Jamaicans. Your 3.5 is the biggest political scam since the history of Jamaica. It cannot be done. You were the people who said when we introduced the 1.5 that it couldn't be done. It would wreck the budget. How do you get from 1.5 to 3.5? It's 3.5 now, right? It used to be 2.3, 3.2, all over the place. Can't be done.
That's the first question coming out of that debate tonight. Let me come to you, Clyde. That question, a lot of it was carried through the debate. You heard the response from Julian Robinson, 140 billion over 3 years, by my calculation, 46.6 billion yearly, and they intend to start this program in 2026 plus all of the other programs. Is that even workable?
Well, let me tell you something. I'm not going to be here trying to work the numbers. It's a party debate trying to target the people who they think they're based to come out and vote for them. But so I'm just saying, I don't have the ability to do that. But I'll say this, that his response was clear. He says, the growth that the JLP is experiencing, bringing in 140 billion, we're going to look at that to get some of the money. He also says there are 4 main things on the budget. And he says they're going to look at the programmatic budget to see if they can reallocate some of those resources. And then he finally, when on his rebuttal, he said it's going to cost $55 billion. He says it's going to cost. So I think in terms of how it comes over to party supporters listening and people looking information, he came over very strong. Favor's position was it can't work. It can't work. It can't work without new taxes. Now that lacked analysis. She didn't rebut whether or not he could use the money from the 1%. She should have looked at that and said the 140 billion, that 1% is not available. She didn't look at whether or not and rebut the programmatic reallocation of the resources. And that's what her job should have been. So on that particular question, Julian answered it from the very get-go, and later he says again, let me remind you what I said. So that's how I look at that particular subject.
Yes.
But the finance minister responded to it later on.
Later on, it did come back up. Yes, it came back up later on.
She did respond to it later on to say that $140 billion in question is not altogether there and available. She did indicate that.
So the growth is not real.
No,
No,
we're talking
that's a
about the
separate point.
140 million.
No, I'm just saying, what would she be saying there? Where is it?
No,
I didn't say it, she did,
what
but
I
I'm
No,
saying
I'm
understand.
not
she
saying you
responded
said
to
it.
it.
I'm
She
saying
responded to it.
Yes.
I'm saying the interrogation would be
Yes.
in relation to, he says it's
Got
to
you.
be, but when she says it's not available, it doesn't answer the question.
All right.
It's
So
not a rebuttal.
yes, let me hear you, Dr. Stokes, on get down to brass tacks
Yeah,
now.
well,
yes.
yeah. The problem is that we're trying to get to brass tacks, and the
Yes.
idea is to not get to brass tacks. Right? That is the issue. And again, we need to just zoom out a little bit and,
Yes.
and understand the big picture. And just to get back to the previous discussion before the break, what the PNP and Peter Bunting in part, the point that they're trying to make is that we have all sacrificed to get this macroeconomic stability.
Yeah.
And the time has now come for that hollowed out middle class to be rebuilt, for the nurse and the doctor to benefit from that. And if you live in Jamaica, that resonates with you. Because people for years and years have been saying, we'll keep chasing down this net international reserves and this debt, and I'm asked to sacrifice, and I am getting poorer. Right? So I think there's a finger on the pulse in that particular regard. So the 3.5% aligns with giving something back to that group. Now it has some issues, frankly.
Yes.
Mainly just from an economics point of view.
Yes, funding.
Is that the funding is one, but that sort of tax relief is not very effective at generating growth.
Yes.
Right? Because people aren't going to use that additional money to invest and save. They're going to use it to pay the school fee that they couldn't pay last month.
Mm-hmm.
Or buy an extra thing that they couldn't buy, which makes it way back into the economy, but is not very
wouldn't
effective.
some invest
So
it?
there's
No?
sorry, go ahead
Wouldn't
again.
some invest it? Wouldn't some invest it?
I am sure there'll be some savings going on, but again, just from my experience of living on the ground in Jamaica, I am sure that if people get that break, they're going to buy some new tires for their car, and they're going to fix back the thing on the fridge that has been fixed.
Or build a room on the house.
Emily,
The bathroom.
Well, yes, let's get down to
Yes.
who is it, who had the content, who had the delivery, who brought it tonight, and which team won the debate. I'm going to start with you, Matthew. Where do you stand on this?
I think we need to, well, I'm going to be frank about the situation for the Labour Party. I think they were not cohesive in terms of messaging. And it was really up to Dr. Dixon to give us in the most abstract way this idea that I thought was rather good. That the truth of the matter is we cannot afford the length and breadth of the social platform the PNP is implementing. And the programs that they haven't on those programs that they're going to cut, and the growth that we get from this current economy isn't enough to support it. And that we need to support the Labour Party's current movements and the steps that they're taking towards long-term growth because it's more sustainable. But that was not, that didn't come across through the speakers on the Labour Party, except through Dr. Dixon. Minister Williams just isn't the best public speaker. We all know that. And Christopher Tufton made really poor decisions about when to hit and where. I thought after the first Finsack attack that he really should have stopped. And the Peter Bunting thing was particularly disappointing as well. But on the PNP side, they made a very clear argument that nobody expected them to, well, amongst young people specifically, which was to justify the reasoning for that social platform to say, we have all, and something that started at the social debate actually with Damian Crawford was them taking ownership of the fiscal rules by them saying, we were in government first when fiscal rules started to take effect, and you inherited a government on the path to growth. We think that growth should go towards now the people of Jamaica. That came across clearly in every single speaker.
So who won the debate, you say?
The PNP very clearly.
Okay. What about you, Doctor?
My view, and I have to be very careful whatever personal biases I may have to put aside, but if I had landed here from Mars this afternoon, it would have frankly been very clear to me that the PNP team on the night was in a debate was far better. In a debate, which is a spoken activity, was far better. The PNP seems flummoxed. They seem to be calling some timeout like they're on School's Challenge quiz. I wasn't sure what's going on.
The
here.
who?
The JLP.
The JLP.
Yeah, the JLP.
Oh, they were calling timeout?
I don't. They were. I don't know what they were doing. They're like trying to reorganize themselves. I think Julian Robinson was very strong from the beginning, more like a machine gun, and then you had Peter Bunting coming in, very very solid with specific things, hitting the target, hitting the vision of the PNP for 2025, and of course you have, to me, the question of the night from Keisha Anderson. And I think the JLP had a lot more ammunition in the tank, ammunition than they used tonight, and I would definitely give the PNP this debate.
Clyde?
No, man, you have to give me the last say, man. I'm on home side. You have to give Jeremy the run.
No, go ahead, Clyde. Go ahead.
Clyde, go ahead.
No, man, I yield to Jeremy. Jeremy, I yield to Jeremy.
Well, so maybe I was watching a different debate, but you see, I debated. God rest Norma Rochester's soul. It's now not a question of who has the louder argument, it's who have the sounder arguments. And so I heard a lot of loud arguments from the PNP and not necessarily sound arguments. I know that the rubric doesn't have something to indicate facts, and there were several inaccuracies with things that they quoted. So I am not necessarily going to make this about a debate as to who sounded better and who was more prepared. I'm a political scientist. I have to structure and judge based on facts. So for me, marginally so, I think the JLP's message, I'm not sure where others saw it. I think the message certainly was clear. Stay with the safer choice. The PNP had more to prove. The burden of proof was with them, and so they had to make a different kind of case.
Clyde Williams.
For me, the JLP marginally won.
Yes, Clyde?
In a political debate, it is not so much what we think. I put myself in the mind of the voters and so on, and I think in terms of the base of both parties, the base is going to be happy today, because the base is going to be see how Dana batting out there. They're going to hear Tufton talking about the achievements and so on. So the JLP base is going to be happy. So for the JLP, that is going to be a victory. Any team that's going to be a victory. For the PNP, their base is happy as well. In terms of the performance of their debaters and so forth, and the perception that Julian Robinson in particular is ready to be the finance minister. When I match up Julian and I'm looking at how he's responding to questions, he responds and then he punches. He responds and he punches. I don't agree with Jermaine that they made just nice. No, they made some solid points.
I didn't state
yes,
that.
But I'm just expressing my opinion.
Let him finish.
So I'm going to give the PNP. So I'm saying both sides would have their base up and running, but the PNP are clear winners in the debate.
All right. I've got to go, and I clearly was watching a different debate as well, Dr. McAlpin, from all of the other guests. I didn't like Julian Robinson because it was quite unnatural, the posture that he came with. He was aggressive, it was loud. He's somebody who I didn't recognize in this debate tonight. The best debater for me was Dr. Dana Dixon. I think Tufton did well, but he got a little bit in the tatters and so forth. I also think that whole thing with him and Peter Bunting, perhaps they should have taken it outside. I'm not sure what Keisha Anderson's purpose was actually about. And Favored Williams is what Favored Williams is. She's soft-spoken, but she is solid. I think the JLP won this particular debate this evening. So we're up on a break.
So it's a draw from the observers.
All right. We're actually going to be here for a bit longer. So because of the importance of this debate and some of the things that came out, some of the things that did not, then I will continue with my panelists until 11:30. And to get back to some of the numbers, because I think Dr. McAlpin, part of what you were saying, it resonates with me, which is why I've taken the view that I've taken about this debate, which is on top of us being told that it's going to cost, or we're going to generate revenue of $140 billion for the next 3 fiscal years. I actually did the calculation to see how much per year are we looking at in terms of revenue as projected based on the current fiscal paper. And as I was saying to Clyde Williams before the break, that works to me to be 46.6 billion yearly. I completely agree that the finance minister should have done more in terms of rebutting all of those numbers. But we in the postmortem, I think it is okay for us to do it. 46.6 billion per year at 1% growth will not even be sufficient by itself to cover the 55 billion that the 3.5 million income tax threshold increase is going to cost. When you look at the pull from NHT to say you're not going to take the 11.4 billion from NHT, it means there's a bigger hole that is coming around. When you look at all of the other things that we are told will need to happen for the PNP, the worry I have is that I have not been told exactly how it's going to be done, and I'm told that there'll be no new taxes. If no new taxes, then you're going to be borrowing. If you borrow, what is it going to do to the nominal tax numbers that we have? So that is part of the issue that I am grappling with, Dr. Stokes, because I'm not coming from out of space. I live here, and these numbers matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, let's take it on the face, right? Mr. Robinson came back to the $360 billion, I believe, of spending. Now, 55 billion or 50 billion is a lot. Is a big percentage.
Yes.
Well, first of all, let us be glad that he did not say that he would be reducing the debt payments. They're reducing either debt or capital. So let us be glad that he is not targeting the debt payments, loan payments, and capital.
That's the first call on the budget, so that can't be.
No, let's just leave that.
Yeah.
All right, and there's some rules around that. It's a lot of moving around to find 55 billion. You know,
yes.
Frankly. So I hear the words coming out of his mouth, and I hear the idea.
Yeah.
When you sit down and you're looking at the accounts to actually find it, I think that is going to be a monumental task. Maybe you could say 1%, you know, that's going to be 1.5, 2. But let's be fair, we have not been able to do that in the history of the country.
Yes.
In on
Please,
the end
go
of
ahead.
that, and to just step back into the realm of political fantasy, as Clyde, you know, was pointing to towards their base, you would notice in a lot of their messaging, the PNP, is that they're talking about billions, millions untapped because of government corruption and waste.
Yes.
And the way they paint is going to be so much money from government corruption and waste that we're getting rid of. And then we know what programs they're going to cut. For example, but certainly the school buses are going to be cut to a significant degree, and we're not going to be spending as much money on the rural school bus
but pause
program.
on that.
But they have the 10,000.
But pause on that. 110 buses have already been bought for 1.4 billion. So whatever is allocated for the next fiscal year, it will come over in the next budget. So it's not even an item now anywhere that they can properly cut. The items, having looked at the estimate of expenditure, and this is what concerns me, which I'd love the economists to help with, the 300 and odd billion that Julian talks about. When I look at the fiscal paper, what has been approved in the estimates of expenditure, we're looking at PATH, we're looking at social pension, short-term poverty intervention program, financial assistance, exam fee, part school feeding assistance, pass transportation, Ministry of Labour, poor relief, assistance to infirmaries, and the Ministry of Health and Wellness, social assistance. They
But this is
needed
the
to
point.
say,
But this-
what
no, no, but
exactly
you're
will
right,
they
but this-
cut from here?
Right, but this is the point. All of those things are things that would be very important to where the PNP is positioning itself now.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Poverty reduction, keeping the poverty rate down, and help and delivering benefits to the person who has paid a heavy price over there. That's the whole theme.
Right.
And you can't do it there, right? So I understand that in a campaign you say that you're going to find it there.
Yes.
But like, as I've said twice already, and I'll say again, when you sit down to actually do it, it's going to be difficult. And this talk about completely re-engineering the budget is an interesting and a bold thing, but
Yes.
to quote a popular saying, it cannot be do, or can it be do? I don't know.
Right. So did I hear correctly that all of those things you say are in line with the PNP?
There's not
thinking
one
as
of
well?
those that the PNP would say, let's cut.
Exactly. So when Peter Bunting, for example, said he'll be shaking up all the priorities of government because people don't vote for you to continue what the party in government is doing, then it runs counter to your understanding.
Once
as
you
to what
start
they
looking
will
at the
keep.
once you start looking at the statements, the choices become very, very
Yes.
difficult.
Yes.
But you know what is supplementary to that thinking as well, and even though this is still me in the realm of political fantasy, another part of their messaging is that this will fundamentally fuel growth. The fact that we're giving you this break is going to fund. I'm not sure how plausible that is, but that's a part of their messaging overall. We're going to support you in this. We're going to give you affordable housing. We're going to give you all things to set you up to grow. I think what we don't talk about, and I was mentioning during a break, is how we tax people. And how we tax companies. Something Keisha Anderson said that is really important,
yes.
That Christopher Tufton rebutted too well, was that a lot of informal companies don't want to be formalized because they're afraid of being taxed. And that's the point of a tax holiday. A 3-year tax holiday would be for MSMEs. But Christopher Tufton said that's just not true. Companies have been registering at increasing rates across the JLP government. So what is the real issue? The companies we're not taxing at equitable rates are those companies that have their profit being moved outside of the country. And neither party has ever had the courage to talk about investing in industries that produce real growth for people.
Right. The other question that came up, which we going to just bring up on the screen for you, Al Edwards' question on the 15% reduction. He said by his estimation it will cost $135 billion. The first we're hearing a response from the finance minister on this. She said it will cost between 25 to 30 billion. Here is that particular response.
I'm not sure where that number came from. Our number, based on the technocrats who did it, put it at between 25 to 30 billion dollars. That's our number. That is doable. We are the party that did the 1.5 in a responsible way. We are the party that moved the threshold from 1.5 to 1.7 to 1.8. Next year it'll be 1.9 and then 2.0. We know how to handle the tax affairs, the revenue affairs of the country. And we are going to move with this in a responsible way over time, ensuring that we continue to give back to Jamaicans. You've seen us do the reverse income tax. You've seen us do a number of initiatives, all with the goal of ensuring that the Jamaican people get back monies in their pockets so that they can provide more for themselves and their families.
This administration has been very much the administration that's pragmatic. We have always said to Jamaica what can be done, and then we have done it. We did it with 1.5, and we're doing it again with 2.0, and also our other proposal in terms of 15% income tax. We never say what we cannot do, unlike
Thank
our
you, Team
opposition.
JLP. Thank you, Team PNP. Your rebuttal. 45 seconds.
I want to remind the country that the 1.5 that they boast about cost the country $31 billion in new taxes implemented by the Jamaica Labour Party. The Minister of Finance is saying her estimate is 25 to 30 billion. She's applying the same Pro Box maths that she said you can use $2,000 a month for buy a Pro Box. The most conservative estimate for their program to reduce the income tax rate is $68 billion. So where do you get your maths from? Tell the country, how will you finance it? Which programs will you cut? Where will the money come from?
Thank you, Team PNP.
That was certainly one of the best rebuttals for the night, the Pro Box math. And I think at this time, don't you think we should be hearing from the Fiscal Commissioner, Dr.?
Yes,
Stokes
I'm surprised that we have gone so far down without hearing from the Fiscal Commissioner. Maybe it's after the last weekend's announcements that it would be apropos to hear about that. But let me say that, and I'm not sure where the JLP is now, but the JLP with Dr. Nigel Clark as Minister of Finance, I can say with some confidence that the language that appears in the manifesto that speaks about reducing this thing over time, right? So not tomorrow morning, over time, and balancing the direct tax, which is the PAYE, with indirect taxes, which is the GCT, as I've been trying to bring up, gives them the elbow room to raise taxes while lowering this over there, to not rock the ship too much. No, that would be a Dr. Nigel Clark approach. You don't rock the ship.
Balance.
You give and you take, and you keep the thing steady. We'll see if this version of the Jamaica Labour Party sticks to that. But that sort of balancing and giving and taking without actually raising the number of the tax, right? The tax number, I think is responsible. But I come back to a point I think I mentioned before, is I know the importance of tax relief and income relief, but we have in Jamaica a growth problem. I think it was Al who brought up the 0.8%.
Yes.
And then after going on 10 years in office, Dr. Dana Morrison is still talking about things that, well, why didn't you do it 5 years ago, right? And I can tell you the answer to that is hard. It's hard to get a middle-income country to grow from 1% to 4 to 5 to 6 to move. Very, very few countries have done that.
And on top of that, we had COVID.
And on top of it, you have COVID. But everybody had something. I mean,
Yes.
But that is true. But my point is that each proposal, the 15% and the targets different things which are aligned to the philosophy of each party. The PNP is aligned to equity and help and giving back something to the middle class, to the working class. The JLP is in traditional markup, bring down the tax rate so people spend more money. They're going to bring down the corporate rate as well, and generate growth, which is their thing, as opposed to relief. And both are legitimate, and it just shows the difference between the parties.
I'm back with Dr. McAlpin and Clyde Williams, which is part of the issue. Here we have Julian Robinson saying, you've projected 1% growth over the next 3 fiscal years, but we pledge to grow the economy to greater percentages than that. And on the other hand, we have Dr. Chris Stokes telling us in his analysis that the 3.5 threshold movement, which is being introduced, is really geared to giving more people more money, which is the base of the party, of the People's National Party. But the other policy, which is the reduction in the income tax rate, is more geared to generating growth. Isn't that part of the difficulty, that you can't really achieve growth if the policy that you're putting in place is not at its core going to drive growth to the level that you want? Dr. McAlpin.
Part of it is, as I said in the opening remarks, is the question of sustainability, right? Any large social welfare program will have recurring costs. And so it's not just simply a one-time cost. And so the numbers I saw indicate that both of these proposals are closer to each other. The average is between 37 and 70 billion for the JLP's proposal, and for the PNP between 60 and 80 billion. So for me, it's a question of where you're going to fund it. And if you're going to talk about high growth within the context of where we are today, what kind of growth are you talking about? Are you talking about the Southeast Asian tigers? Are you talking about doubling the current growth? What is the growth trajectory? Because it can't simply just be that you're going to grow the economy because it's stable and because you're now going to give people money to put in their pockets. That will become disposable income largely. So I don't anticipate that that is now going to be invested in such a way that will yield the kind of sustainability. So it's great in the short term, but I don't see the feasibility and the sustainability of it in terms of a long-term kind of policy proposal.
Right. And then on the 15% income tax, the reduction, as far as I'm aware now, there are different grades. So there is 25 now, and if you go over a certain band, then it's 30. Over 6 million is 30%.
So it's $6 million.
But we haven't even heard the specifics about, what's going to happen with that grade. Does it remain, or will it be a one-off 15%? We still don't know that.
We just keep hearing the phased approach. And I think parties hide behind these kinds of very opaque things. A phased approach, we're going to do it through growth. Because I think, and Clyde made the point earlier, the reality of it is that the bases are looking for talking points to say who won or who lost. And those, every poll I've seen indicates that those who consider debates before voting are less than 4%. So part of the reality is that those who have decided to vote have already decided to vote. And this isn't what is going to convince them. It's the uncommitted and those who are going to be what I call same-day voters.
Yes.
The debate is a campaign platform. It's a campaign stop. And if anybody don't understand it, they don't understand political debates. It's a campaign stop. Robinson did say, so both of the big finance economic proposals have no details, so we can't assess them properly, both parties. Both the JLP tax and both the PNP's proposal and so on. So, but I don't expect to get that in a debate. It's 90 seconds to respond. It's talking points, campaign points. What I expect now is that we can drill down in seminars, whatever you want, pressers. So I will be looking at, from the media's perspective, to have a presser to deal with those two things specifically. The proposal from the JLP for the overtime, and of course the overtime is not within any kind of years, as my friend Jermaine just said. It just says the long term, but long term is in finance term is not 3 and 5 years. So I wasn't really fully understanding it. So long term, take it outside of a 5 year, which is I think is a medium term kind of thing. Is that correct, Jermaine?
5 to 7 years becomes medium term.
That's correct. So even the use of long term, it takes it out of this particular 5 year term that they have. So, but I didn't expect that, honestly. And as I said, I judge the debate primarily not on whether or not they're cogent arguments and so on, because the debate is not targeting us. The debate is targeting the base. So what happens tonight? You see, right now, labor rights happy, PNP happy, because none of them disgraced and discredited themselves. So both of them performed well for their base. Because if you don't perform well for your base, it's a little deflating. People are wondering if them come work hard on election day.
Right.
What
about the uncommitted then, Clyde? Where does the uncommitted fall after tonight?
I don't think, all right, so there's two kind of uncommitted. There's the uncommitted, they're not uncommitted to a party, but they're not sure if they're going to go vote this time, right? And then there's the uncommitted who really don't know who they should vote for.
Right.
A little confused. So I think tonight, both sides, they're uncommitted people who are labor rights and comrades, who are wondering if them to go vote. I think tonight is going to cause them to call one another and say, boy, you're Julian, you're Dana, you're what I say. So I think on both sides, they're uncommitted supporters have left tonight saying, you know what, I think I might go vote. That's what I think is going to happen for that.
But one third of all the potential electorate is neither JLP nor PNP.
Yes, we know that.
So, right, but that marginal constituent will determine the election.
No, but they're not going to vote. You see,
They're coming off. Don Anderson's report says, Don Anderson's poll says they're coming off now, closer to the election. More have come off this week. Where will they break for in light of this, you think, Clyde? Let me hear you.
Well, tell us the number. Tell us the number. What is the number he's estimated?
What? The last time about 6% of them, I believe, in the last poll have come off the fence.
I'm asking in terms of the turnout at the vote itself, the turnout.
About 50%.
It is anticipated it should be between 48 and 50%.
All right. So I'm making a simple point, not any rocket science. I'm just making the point that both sides have people who support them, and that tonight will cause those limited number of people. I'm not talking about who's going to take the thing, Germany. I'm just talking about base. That undecided PNP, that undecided Labour right, tonight is going to cause them to say, you know what, never call Mary and talk.
But are you PNP or Labour right if you're undecided at this point?
Yes, you're missing the undecided. I'm saying undecided as to whether they are to go and vote.
Okay.
Not undecided as to who to vote for.
All right, gentlemen. Come Thursday night, there'll be another big debate. These two men have virtually avoided facing each other since the publication of the Integrity Commission report some years ago, and it has continued. We will have pre-debate analysis, and we will have post-debate here. Your expectations heading into Thursday's debate, let me hear from you, Matthew. You may be here, you may be watching from the sidelines, I'm not sure. Tease up what you expect for the one coming on Thursday for me, with the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition.
It is inevitably going to be an equal battle, and it can't be anything besides that. And that's why I'm happy this economic debate went well enough. There is no way any substance can come out of the leadership debate because of that extreme rivalry. And I don't think rivalry has come from the party leaders. Well, that's not true.
Oh, yes.
The rivalry has been fueled really heavily by the parties. So as Clyde keeps pointing out, neither party leader is going to be willing to destroy this ultimate rivalry that both parties have developed between either party leader. But I will say that, and I'm speaking to young people specifically because 50% of us by the last Don Anderson polls aren't sure of the PNP, and only a marginal percent of us are wanting to give the JLP another term. This is the opportunity for Mark Golding to step out of this mob of unsure, and people don't know what he's for and you don't know what his policy is. This is his chance to become favorably equal to Andrew Holness in a way that he has never been. Maybe he'll get to that equality at this leadership debate, and it's time for Andrew Holness to finally decry all of the corruption scandals in the way that he did in the last JLP rally, the last big JLP rally. I thought the rhetoric there was really very good, and I've said that a number of times. He needs to replicate that at a higher level and keep a cool head. If he specifically, Andrew Holness, is not cool, the debate will not turn out well.
Well, look at this. You like Julian Robinson, and he was uncool, but the Prime Minister has to be cool. He has to be prime ministerial. But that's how we judge. Dr. Stokes.
Yeah. So look, Dr. Holness will be in his element. I think he's made for such things. He is the best deliverer of the JLP message, regardless of, what we saw today or in the previous debate with outstanding performance by Matthew Samuda. Dr. Holness is the best person to deliver. When you hear him speak, he's very clear on what they're doing, their competence, their deliverance, their actions, so on and so forth. It will be interesting how that is interpreted, because he will be a little more forceful, closer to what Mr. Robinson was today. But I do think Mr. Golding will be not staid, but a little more steady and factual and prosecute his arguments. I don't expect that he'll be as energetic as the Prime Minister. He will try to go down the wicket of the corruption, which I'm not persuaded yet has traction in the country. And I think that the Prime Minister on his feet is well positioned to defend himself to the extent that that is possible, and to push back on the waffling that has haunted the PNP for the last couple of years. So we'll see how that goes. It will be entertaining, you know, at least. Whether it will move anybody, I'm not convinced, but I expect it to be informative.
All right, Clyde, would you wish to go before or at the end?
Yes, I'll go before McAlpin on this. It's free. So here's what. Here's what. I have no expectations, actually. None at all. I've seen a lot of these debates, and persons know in my own antecedents, I've been involved in one in 2011. None at all. Because the parties come to play to specific outcomes. Forget what you want to say. And the two primary outcomes they're coming to play to is that, one, let us cause our base to be happy and riled up at the end of the debate, ready to work on election day and to work between now and election day, one. And two, their supporters who not decide if them to go vote yet, they want those persons to be starting to say, you know what, I'm going to go out now because of how the debate has handled it. To date, as I said, tonight's debate was good from my perspective, right around for both parties and their supporters. And nothing. So again, I'm expecting the same thing on Thursday. Campaign platform and close up.
I've got to go. 10 seconds to you, Dr. McAlpin. Expectations for Thursday?
It's a prime ministerial audition, and so the burden of proof again lies with Mark Golding. I think, having served in the capacity as Prime Minister, Andrew Holness has less convincing to do. Like Dr. Stokes, I don't think the corruption argument has really gained traction with the electorate. I just believe that he has to stay on message, the Prime Minister. And I think that's the best that he can do. Play it safe rather than trying to hit any 6 or any 4.
Thank you.
Just hit a 1 and run between the crease.
Depends how many runs you have to make, how many balls left to be bowled. But thank you. It's about 8 days before the election. Join us again on Thursday for pre-debate analysis, post-debate analysis, when we will join the Jamaica Debates Commission for the face-off between Andrew Holness and Mark Golding. Have yourselves a good evening, everybody. I'm Emily Shields.